All right, welcome everybody to the Champions Journey podcast. I'm your host Scott Jones. We have Mark Astor and Randy Grimes with us, and certainly the first and foremost we want to do. Thanks for joining us on our second show, but this is on the 4th of July. So happy 4th of July, everybody! If you're watching live, if you're repeating, I hope you're repeating and watching this with all your fingers and toes intact. We really hope so. But yeah, 4th of July is what I love this holiday. This is all about cookouts and family, isn't it?
Actually, it's probably the last day for some people to have 10 fingers.
That's
Yeah,
it happens all the time.
Out there, happy 4th of July.
Excellent. Excellent.
and I'm excited. I mean, listen, as an Americanized Englishman, I'm very happy to be here, and I always enjoy this holiday. And right after we get done, I'm headed to my future mother-in-law's house, and she has promised to cook me pumpkin pie. So that, not apple pie, but pumpkin pie. I'm sure there'll be apple pie there too. So I will be celebrating with a little pumpkin pie, and so this is a good holiday. I love this holiday. So
That's a first. I've never heard of pumpkin pie on 4th of July.
I'm going to tell you something. It's true. The way to a man's heart is through his stomach. My future wife figured that out, and apparently my future mother-in-law has known that for many years, and she hooked me in with a pumpkin pie. We're good. We're good. So although judging by when I look at the photographs when we do our intro, and I'm like, wow, I really did gain a few pounds. It's amazing,
Well, welcome to the club. Welcome.
I lost a little hair too.
Well, I've been able to keep the hair, but I put on the weight, and I think I'll trade a few hairs if I could lose a little bit of weight. And I was setting up some new exercise equipment today and pulled a muscle setting up the exercise equipment. So that's not good, guys.
You got to be careful with the bench press. Do not mess with the bench press before you even get on it.
But okay, so you guys got family things going on. Randy, you're still in Texas.
Still in Texas, Houston.
You got people to do stuff with?
Say that again.
Do you have people to do stuff with today?
Oh my gosh, yeah, we got our whole family here. My son's here from Africa, so that's huge. I don't get to see him very often. He lives and works in Rwanda with his family, and they're here now. So we get to spend time with them. We're all coming back out to Florida tomorrow. We'll spend another week out there, and then they'll go up to New York for a couple of weeks and then head back. So you gotta get it when you can.
Absolutely. Now it's funny because Randy, you're in Texas, and I know you go all over the place, but right now it's a lot between Florida and Texas.
Right.
Mark, you're doing some work up in where was it, Massachusetts? You're opening up a place?
We have our office up there. Right now we're back down in Florida, although Audra and I were just talking about how much we'd like to spend, I think, next summer up there, up in Cape Cod, where it's a little cooler.
Oh, yeah.
So, I've been here, 35 years now, and just never get used to these Florida summers. But listen, we're blessed to be here and have food on the table, so it's good. It's good, but a little cooler would be nice too.
Well, I guess the gentleman. Well, here, let me throw a few of these out here real quick. We got our friend Gio wishing us a happy 4th of July.
Hey, Gio.
Gio would be a nice guy to have on a show sometime. Talk about his journey and what he's done with his life, which has been fantastic. We've got Sandy saying hello, hi fellows, happy 4th, and of course Karen saying happy 4th, guys. So
that's what I love about it.
So the point I wanted to bring across real quick was that you guys are doing traveling. You're going state to state. The crisis is real no matter where you go. Massachusetts, just because it's nice up there and there's a lot of money up in the Northeast, like there, they're still facing the opioid crisis and the crisis with addiction. Randy, you're in Texas, and there's a lot of open areas and horses and cowboys and tough guys. The opioid crisis just as strong there. You can't escape it, can you?
You can't get away from it. And, right, especially in Texas, with the open borders and everything that's going on and all the fentanyl. And it's not just fentanyl coming over, it's everything, all the classics, the heroines, the cocaines, even the real deal pills. So, we're always in crisis mode out here, and you don't see any end to it. That's the sad part about it. You just don't see an end.
No. Mark, how about what are you seeing up there? You're opening up a new office up in Mass. What are you seeing up there, brother?
Yeah, I think the demand is every bit as strong up there as it is down here. And It's interesting. I got a chance a couple of weeks ago. I went to see. So there's a well-known rocker. I'm not going to mention his name, but he's associated with the treatment center, and every week he does this rock out. You guys will probably know who he is, and he's in recovery. And I said to him, I said, how did these rock and roll guys who were really into big time drugs back in the 60s and 70s and early 80s? I said, how comes most of you guys are still alive? He said, easy. There was no fentanyl in the drugs. The drugs alone didn't kill you. I mean, other things might kill you, right? But when you stick fentanyl and coke and heroin and meth and all that stuff, yeah, it'll kill you. And so that's, to Randy's point, that's what we're seeing, right? All these drugs are laced with this stuff that will it'll end you, on your first go around. And that stuff is coming over the border like there's no tomorrow. And we won't get political here on the show, but it's coming, and it's coming more than ever. And until that's stopped, we're going to see a lot more dead people.
I don't want people to get lulled into, because there was this, remember the war on drugs that we've had for years, the war on trillions of dollars spent.
Drugs, not drugs.
And it was like it had very little effect on anything, because the fight isn't against drugs. The fight should be against mental health and apathy and turning our backs on people who need a helping hand. We could shut down the fentanyl coming in. It's going to make a tiny dent, but then we'll find something else. We'll either manufacture it here or something, because the addiction will go on. We can't take away the substance. So, although I agree with you guys, we got to tighten up. We don't want these things coming in, but that the answer really lies more in how we treat each other and how we turn a blind eye to what's going on, especially with mental health and young people in America. Would you guys agree with that?
You're exactly right. There's not enough mental health resources out there, and that's the root of all addiction is trauma. Pretty much all addiction is based in some kind of trauma. And, we're not getting down to what makes people do what they do. We don't, and for whatever reason, whether, we can't get them into the right facility, or we don't give them enough time, or they're not in front of the right therapist, whatever reason that might be, we've got to do a better job at it. And it starts with having more resources available for mental health.
Absolutely. Mark, I'm sure in your line of work, you're helping people who probably could have used help much earlier than when they're finally reaching you, right?
Yeah, it's funny. My father, before he passed, Paul, passed on many words of wisdom to me, one of which was how much he hated all the lawyers except for me. So one of many words of wisdom. Others I won't share on the air. But needless to say, yeah, look, nobody wants to call a lawyer, and they certainly don't want to give us any money. So I know when they call us, it's really the end of the road. And they're asking us to try and fix this problem that has probably been going on for years and years and years. Their loved ones probably been in and out of treatment more times than they can count. And the family is sick and tired of being sick and tired. There's a reason for family disease. It's because it's literally like a metastasizing cancer, and it's just slowly destroying the family. And it's been going on so long that they don't know any other way. That's their status quo, is this insanity that's going on a daily and sometimes hourly basis. And so, part of the recovery process is not just the individual, but the family too. And that takes time. It's a slow healing process. If it's been going on for years, it's going to take a little time to fix it.
Well, and part of those resources that I talk about is for the family, because, I've always said, and whether I'm right or wrong, I've always said it, when families get well, addicts get well, because when they learn boundaries, when they learn to detach with love and all the things that you have to do, then people do get well, I think. But all of that, it goes into mental health and helping these families get well, so they'll know how to handle their loved one that's struggling with this.
We've got a few people. Let's acknowledge Sean Queskin. He works in the treatment industry here in Florida, and he's met all three of us. So Sean, I haven't seen Sean in a couple of years. I hope you're doing well, brother. Let's see. Karen, friends from Crazy About Costumes right there in Fort Lauderdale. Love you three. So interesting and hopeful.
Thanks, Karen.
Scott, you're an amazing soul. Great work you do for everyone. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And Sandy saying prevention starts in elementary school with education, family support, and mental health treatment availability. I agree with that. And what the amazing thing is, we've all had children that we've had to put in school, or at least we've worked with people and we understand the school systems. we will fight about, which, making sure that we have the new math coming in, and we've got this and we've got that. But there is nothing in school that prepares you for understanding mental health. And I think that's something that should be done. I mean, how do you guys feel about that, about having mental health classes? It doesn't have to be a huge dedication, but to understand about depression and anxiety and who to talk to and destigmatize these things. How would you feel about having that in our elementaries and our junior high schools, guys?
Well, or even our high schools. And I've brought this up before. I've talked about this before. If we could just have some kind of assessment for every senior leaving high school, how many things, I mean, how many red flags maybe could we catch, but we don't even do that. And I know that takes a lot of money, that takes a lot of manpower, takes a lot of professionals, to do that. But why can't we try it? Why can't we do as many as we can? And it can start at the first of the year, their senior year, but just get an assessment of every senior that's leaving that school and see if there's any red flags that we can, maybe stop before, it's called prevention.
Absolutely. Mark, how do you feel about that, brother?
I like what Randy says, but there's a fine line here. So, we get a lot of calls from people who have been Baker Acted, which is the statute here in Florida that basically allows the state to take temporary custody of you. And frankly, once you're sucked into Florida's mental health system, it can be one hell of a battle to get out. And we get a lot of calls from minors that are getting Baker Acted. And we've been seeing is children who either make silly comments to a teacher, post something silly online, and then what tends to happen is there tends to be a little bit of an overreaction. And, the schools are and rightly so, are nervous about kids who make silly threats, especially when it's against other kids in the school. And these kids are getting sucked into the mental health system. And then it becomes a real battle to get them out and get them help. The other thing that we see is that we see a lot of younger children being medicated, okay, with these chemical inducing or altering drugs. And I'm not a doctor. I mean, Audra and I we're surrounded by doctors in the family, but when you put that medication, when parent calls and says that their child was suffering from anxiety and depression at 5 years old and they've been on Adderall for the last 5 years and they're acting out, and you keep hearing that, there's got to be something isn't right. I mean, there's clearly something going on there where we're medicating children at that young age. I mean, and it's a little frightening. And I think what tends to happen is when you start messing with the brain and you're altering the chemistry, and that's when things start to go sideways. The other thing is obviously seeing children who don't have come from a good family setting. I mean, this kid that shut up Marjorie Stoneman Douglas here in Florida, he was in our office 8 weeks before this all went down. My partner Audra was working on a probate matter for the family. And I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a deceased mother who had an estate, and he was in our office 8 weeks before. And I can tell you that when that went down, Audra came flying into the office. She's like, "I think this is my client." I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" She's like, "Turn on the TV right now." Okay. And we logged on, we saw what had happened. And he had been in our office 8 weeks before. Now, we're not clinicians, but I said to her, was there anything about it? She said he sat there quiet as a mouse, never said a word. Okay. And we had to go to the jail to meet with him a couple of times because of the probate thing going on. But the next thing I know, I got CNN back, literally showing up in the office, and everybody in all the office staff are panicking, want to know why CNN's in the reception. And so, I mean, we really have to have people who are really well trained to deal with these issues in all of the schools. We talk about having school security, which is important, but you got to have clinicians there as well, because, it's not kids are getting bullied online. They're getting medicated. There's all of these things, broken homes. I mean, there's so much going on. There's so many factors going on here. It's a different ballgame from when, we all went to school. It really is.
Absolutely. And I'm going to cut you off here because I think this is a discussion we could dedicate a show or two to this. Listen, other countries have fentanyl. They're not killing themselves the way we are. Other countries have guns. They're not shooting each other the way we are. We've got a real systemic problem, and the problem isn't the thing. The problem is the people and how we treat the people and what we recognize and what we see and not knowing what to do. But we're going to talk more about that. Right now, we do have a special guest today, and he ran a few minutes behind, but he's in our waiting room right now. His name is Kipp Luster. This is a friend of yours, Mark. Before we bring him in, just tell us quickly, who is this guy we're about to talk to?
So Kipp is the CEO of a company called Streets to Fitness. I mean, beside the fact, Kipp promotes fitness, he's also helping young people that end up in the juvenile justice system to make sure they either don't end up there or they get out of the system. He has an amazing background, served time in prison, many years in prison. He was at one time probably the largest drug dealer in all of northern Florida, and got himself in a whole heap of problems. But before that, he came from a broken home. His own father is in prison and has been there for many years. And he was raised by a grandparent. And frankly, the fact that he's even on the show is a testament maybe to his resilience. And I think when he was in prison, he found physical fitness. It was the one thing that kept him sane. And he's got before and after photographs. And it's now he actually, I've spent time with him. People come up to him and they say, "Are you a football player?" He's built like a football player. He looks like, I don't know if he would be a competition for Randy, but I don't know. He looks like he could play linebacker or, good fullback. He looks great.
I think today he could outrun Randy. I'm pretty sure.
Only because Randy has bad knees. It's not because he's slow, just so we're clear here.
All right. Let's bring him in because he's been waiting. He ran a few minutes behind, but he's here now. This is our special guest, Kipp Luster. Kipp, thank you very much for being with us today, brother.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Sorry I'm late.
That's all.
Hey, it all happens. It all happens. But Mark was telling us, why don't you, if you could just kind of give us a little bit of a Reader's Digest about, who you are and what you've been through.
Okay. Kipp, maybe start with Streets. Explain what the Streets is about, what the mission is. And then we can talk about, how you got there.
I'm the CEO of Streets to Fitness. I created my own brand. Streets to Fitness is dedicated to people that faced adversity like myself and use fitness as an outlet to overcome whatever problems they're facing in life. If you come from a dysfunctional household like I did myself. And also, I have a non-profit organization. It's called Streets to Fitness Youth Empowerment Organization, right? I was in and out of juvenile facilities when I was young. So I felt as if like I should reach back and help these kids bridge the gap, show them that change is possible. So a background about my story, I'm biracial, I'm black and white. My mom, she graduated from Georgetown University in 1988. And shortly after, when I was 1 year old, my mom passed away. And my dad, he's been incarcerated my entire life since I was 1 as well. So I relocated and I was raised by my great aunt in Northwest Florida, Fort Walton Beach, drug infested neighborhood. And my great aunt that raised me, she had her nephew and niece living in the household with me. They were drug users, and my great aunt was an alcoholic and a gambler as well, right? So she was very poor. I was basically a pawn in a racial game. My mom's side of my family is very wealthy. My black side of my family wouldn't allow me to go live with them, but they wanted the money to support me. However, they were getting the money and they weren't supporting me. So at a young age, I figured out a way to provide for myself. She wasn't buying me school clothes or school shoes. So right in the neighborhood, I had access to learn how to sell drugs. I seen drug users and I seen the drug dealers. Okay, the drug dealers, they had the money. I'm not glorifying my old actions. I'm just telling you my story and how I adopted those bad habits, right? And I end up in 9th grade, really when I was 12 years old, I dabbled with it. Okay, I made some money. And then I realized, okay, I can use this outlet, this resource that I have in my neighborhood to get money to buy myself clothes and shoes for school. I was into sports. I wanted to play basketball. I wanted to play football. And it was discouraging not having a support system. So I ended up starting selling drugs. I ended up getting in trouble, going in and out of juvenile facilities, criminal record when I was like 14. And to be honest, I became institutionalized at a young age. So now I felt like, okay, doing time is not as hard as it seems, right? So I was comparing juvenile detention centers to actual prison. So hearing people talk about prison and I'm a young kid, I'm like, okay, it's not that bad, right? So I got caught in a system where there wasn't a structure to put these kids, which I was one of those kids, on the right path. So they're not correcting me. They're not adding any curriculum to me. They're not teaching me how to elevate and be successful if you come from a poverty neighborhood, right? So there was guys in the juvenile detention centers that tried to talk to us, motivational speeches and stuff like that. But when they put you back out into your environment, kick you back out after you serve your time, 21 days, 6 months, whatever it is, no one's there to help you. So it was like I was so discouraged. I gave up. I lost hope. When I was 14, I played basketball for my high school, Chattahoochee High School, right? And I had dreams of going all the way with basketball. And when my great aunt card was declined to buy me clothes, I'm like, man. And I asked, can I go live with my mom's side of my family? I was denied a better life. So I felt hopeless. Every emotion, the worst emotions that you can ever experience, I felt it at that young age. So I just gave up on life. I'm like, okay, my life is a curse. I don't have a mom. I don't have a dad. I'm being raised by my great aunt. She's a alcoholic gambler, has me living with drug addicts. I just gave up. I didn't care about the consequences of my actions. So I just traveled down a dark path, right? So I became a negative influence to all of my friends, right? I'm not glorifying my old actions. I became good at selling drugs because I started at a young age, right? And I felt like I can get away with it. So make a long story short, I was 17. I turned 18 in a juvenile facility. And I knew, okay, when I get out, I thought about my mindset didn't change while I was in there and I turned 18. I was like, okay, when I get out, I still don't have structure. I still don't have resources. I still don't have anything promising me that, okay, if you travel down this path, you can have a successful career or a positive dream. There was no support system. So when I got out, I was 18. I still did not care about the consequences of my actions. But I wanted to change, but I didn't know how, right? So I had these thoughts when I was 17. I turned 18 in there. But when they let me back out, it's like I'm right back into this environment. It's like a hamster in a wheel, right? They're still in that box, but then when they fall out the wheel, they're out the wheel for a little while, then they get back in because that's all they know, right? And from 18 to 23, I was selling drugs. I was trying to figure out ways. I'm navigating through life on my own. I was trying to figure out ways, okay, how can I stop selling drugs, right? So I became an entrepreneur. I started a carpet cleaning company like Stanley Steamers. And I was doing contracts, commercial contracts, Best Western, Super 8, Hampton Inn. And I end up going back to my old ways. Something bad happened, right? I ended up taking a loss with my company, and I went back to my old ways. I was a club promoter as well. All in the course of that 5-year span from 18 to 23, I was living a fast lifestyle, no guidance, no father figure, nobody to show me, hey, look, you're traveling down a dark path. If you don't get your life together, you're going to either be dead or in prison. And 2013, I made some bad decisions. I was driving to Texas on I-10, and I was driving back from Texas on I-10 to Florida, and an officer attempted to pull me over. I was going over there to do some illegal transactions, and I did a high-speed chase through Southeast Texas. And I just made a bad decision. Like, again, when I was raised, I was like traumatized from my childhood trauma. So my childhood trauma, and I heard you guys talking about mental health, right? My childhood trauma traumatized me so much to where I became addicted to pain pills. I became addicted to Lortabs because I was trying to find something to numb all the pain that I endured growing up. Find something to numb the pain, and I was living a lifestyle that I knew was not destined for me. And I felt like it was inevitable and I couldn't control the hand I was dealt in life, right? So I was getting all this money, but I didn't like that lifestyle that I was living. It was stressful. You got to worry about people coming trying to rob you because they know you got a lot of money. You got to worry about the feds. They're coming, right? I got so tired of that life. And then when I did the high speed chases, like my whole life was just flashing. I'm like, okay, I know I'm going to get a long time in prison. I might as well just go out and just do a high speed chase and try to get away from them. And I got like 40, it was a high speed chase for like 45 minutes. And I had to make like a split second decision, either run over the officers or try to hit a U-turn going 90 miles per hour. So I'm like, no, I'm not running over an officer. I'm gonna be in prison for the rest of my life. So I tried to hit the U-turn and I hit the concrete pillar. The back tire blowed out, hit the concrete pillar. Thank God my cousin, which was the passenger, he survived. We hit the concrete pillar to his side. The whole dashboard came in on him, and the hardest bone to break in your body is your femur. his leg, his femur, he broke it, and his leg turned backwards. His foot was facing his butt. And I seen like it was an outer body experience. It was nothing but God. But when I hit the concrete pillar, I blacked out, and it was like a big white flash for like, I say about 3 seconds. Then I came back and I took off the seatbelt and I tried to jump out the car and run. They hit me with the taser. I'm on the ground. I don't hear my cousin in the car, so I'm just praying like, please be alive. Then when they ran to the passenger side, they tried to pull him out. He was screaming, hollering, crying because his leg was backwards. And that's when reality hit me, like everything has come to an end, right? And 2013, so now I had a state case and a federal case in the state of Alabama, right? And I'm 23, about to turn 24, so I started thinking about my life. How can I pray to God, and I'm like, God, you know my story. Nobody knows me better than you. Just help guide me during this time while I do my prison time. Help me become a better person mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, right? So me not being a gangbanger, right? So when I get in prison, I'm starting to hear guys tell me about.
Kipp, can I start just a second? So I know you said you had 2 cases pending. So in terms of time, what did you get from the feds and what did you get in Alabama?
Oh, I got sentenced to 70 months, which is 2 months short of 6 years in the feds, and I got sentenced to 20 years in the state of Texas. But when I got sentenced, right, before I got sentenced, I was hearing guys telling me stories about the prisons and all the gangs and stuff. I was never forced in a gang when in my neighborhood. I was a hustler. I was just a drug dealer. I was nonviolent. I didn't cause harm to people, right? So I started hearing these stories, and I end up getting sentenced and shipped off to Memphis, Tennessee. I get there's like 12 gangs on the yard. I don't have a clue about these gangs and stuff, but I had started working out like 2 months before I arrived to prison. So I was preparing myself mentally. I knew I was going into uncharted waters and I was getting thrown into a jungle, and I knew I was going to have to adapt, right? I come from a rough neighborhood, but when I got there, I'm like, okay, I'm outnumbered. I'm a hustler. These guys are killers and basically murders. Vast majority of them were murderers, right? In there for a long time, in there for life. And I'm like, man, what did I get myself into? I wish someone would have warned me that, look, back to the beginning of the story. I was institutionalized at a young age going in and out of juvenile detention centers. And in my mind, I compared juvenile time to prison time. So now I'm like, whoa, this is a whole different ball game. I'm in the big leagues now. Now I have 6 years to do time in this environment. And, you know, I started my fitness journey while in prison, not for a physical look. I wanted to stay mentally sane, right? And again, I asked God to help me change. I want to change my ways, change my patterns, right? And I started reflecting a lot on my negative behavior when I was young, and I started digging to the source of what caused me to think like that. You know what I mean? And it was a lot of just pain that was eating me up on the inside, like cancer. But when I started working out, it was like I was able to channel my emotions. It made me feel much better. So, okay, I started working out so I can go to sleep at night. The hardest thing to do is sleep while you're in prison, right? So I hated the fact that I would get in the cell and I couldn't sleep. It made you really feel like you're in prison because they lock the door. You're in a small cell, like the size, a little bit bigger than a bathroom. And you're with another guy that you don't have a clue about, just what he tells you. You can be in the cell with a killer. You can be in the cell with a rapist. You can be in the cell you don't have a clue about. So now you got all these thoughts going through your mind, racing. You're wrestling with your thoughts, right? So it's hard to go to sleep. I no longer had access to my coping mechanisms that I used to do when I was in the streets. So now I had to learn how to adapt and cope with my emotions a different way. So fitness became my outlet, right? So I created my daily routine. Now, remind you, the gangs ran all the weights, and it was like very difficult. The thing was, right, I was able to maneuver my way and start working out with the guys with the weights. It was like political. You can't just go up to the weights and start working out, right? So I was working out alone by myself, and I overheard some guys talking about me. I was a club promoter. I did one of my biggest shows with Nicki Minaj. I gave her $50,000 to host a show, in Orlando, Florida in 2011 when I was like 21. I was a club promoter as well. And they overheard me. They heard my story that I was a club promoter. So one of the guys that was working out, he was like, hey, I'm about to go home. Can you teach me how to be a club promoter? I was like, look, here's what I'll do. You let me work out with you guys. I'll teach you how to be a club promoter. I hope you put together a plan so you're about to go home, right? He's around the same age as me, had done 5 years. So then he started giving me advice about doing time. He got me in the workout crew. I started working out with this crew. And the guy that led the workout crew, he had 2 life sentences plus 10 years. And he was like, youngster, we take our workout serious. If you quit on 1 rep, you can't come back. If you don't show up one day, you can't come back. So when I committed to that, I wanted to lift weight so bad, but that was the terms and conditions. I'm like, okay, let's do it. He like pushed me so hard. Like it was times I thought he was just trying to break me. I didn't know if I had to throw up or do a number 2. And I'm like, man, I wanted to quit. All these guys have been working out 5 years plus. They had the same workout crew for 5 years. They didn't let newbies come in. And they end up letting me in. So I'm like, I want to quit so bad. And I end up not quitting. But that guy, he planted a seed of commitment, dedication, resilience. I didn't know I had that inside of me, right? So he pushed me. I stayed consistent with him for like 6 months. I went to Texas, went to trial. I lost in trial. I got 20 years. I made a bad decision again. I didn't have anyone advising me. I went to trial, I lost, got 20 years because I didn't agree to cooperate, so they stacked my time. So I was already in the feds. The state of Texas came and got me, went to trial in Texas, then they kicked me back to the feds, and they told me, look, we're coming to get you when you're done with your time in the feds. So now my mind is like all over the place. I'm like, man, I might not make it home. But again, I prayed to God to just guide me during this journey, and he told me, keep working on yourself. I got you. So I end up getting transferred to Miami for good behavior. So much, much better facility. Have you guys heard of American Greed?
No.
So American Greed is about a lot of how can I say it? Fraud guys, Wall Street fraud guys that had millions of dollars that they embezzled. They made some bad decisions later on in their life. They were law-abiding citizens earlier in their life, but then they hit the greed button a little bit too much, and vast majority of them were 50 years old plus, right?
Well, a lot of white-collar crime guys.
White-collar crime guys, right?
Yeah.
So when I got to Miami, all those guys was there. There wasn't gangs. There wasn't politics like the first prison I went to, right? I'm like, man, this is like vacation. This is like South Beach compared to where I came from, right? It was like I came from the Amazon jungle to South Beach. And when I arrived there, I'm like, they got a palm trees in the prison, a lake, ducks everywhere, animals. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe it. So now I walked on the rec yard. There was no politics with the weights. You could just walk up to the weights and use them, right? So I'm like, so I don't have to get down with the workout crew. So I was already committed to working out with someone that was going to push me. So when I got there, my mindset that guy with the life sentence planted in my head, listen, always commit to a workout crew, someone that's going to challenge you to become the best version of yourself. And I feel like God put me on that path and then took me to an easier path because he wanted me to see that, right? I feel like if I wouldn't have seen how bad it was in Memphis, Tennessee, because again, he knew my path. Like in the juvenile facilities, I was very stubborn. It was like I had to hit the wall and really see the error, like University of Hard Knocks. So the guy that worked out with me, he never talked to me. The only time he talked to me was during the workouts. And if he see me on the prison yard walking to chow, he'll say, "What's up, youngster?" He heard I was about to leave. We were in the barbershop. This is a guy that had the 2 life sentences plus 10. He said, "Youngster, I could tell you're becoming passionate about fitness. This might be your outlet. Put together a plan while you're in here. Don't wait until you get out and try to scramble and put together a plan. You're going to go back to your old ways. Put together a plan while you're in here, and when you get out, execute your plan." He's like, I've been in here 14 years. I've seen guys your age do 5-6 year sentence, get out and come back. I don't want to see you again. He's like, God put that on my heart to tell you. So I end up arriving to Miami, right? I end up meeting Lou Pearlman. I don't know if you guys know of him, making the band, stuff like that. And I knew he was
producer. He's a famous producer. I think he did O-Town, and was it Boyz II Men?
Backstreet Boys, NSYNC. So he had like one of the biggest embezzlements, like $240 million. And I was interested to learn about the entertainment business, right? So I started gravitating to guys that were super successful so I can learn good things. I didn't want to learn how they got in prison, right? So I gravitated to them. I'm like, look, I help you get in shape, because vast majority of them their health was declining bad, right? They were just in there. They couldn't adapt to the time like I could. I was younger. They were older, in their 50s. It's hard for a guy older to do time, right? So I gravitated to those guys. A lot of them read books. I asked them, look, what books do you recommend I read? What self-help books? I read every book that they told me to read. I asked them, hey, how can critique me? Tell me things I need to change about myself. What do I need to better about myself and my character that can help to set me up for success upon my release? Help me put together business plans, teach me business structure. So I was gravitating to all these guys. And I end up meeting a guy named Ross Mandel, right? And while I was in there, I was very vulnerable with these guys. I told them my life story, and I told Ross, look, I got 20 years on top of my 6-year sentence, right? So in my mind, I had my mind set up, I have to go to Texas and do an additional 2 years before I parole out. And when I went to trial, the jury, the judge, the prosecutor, nobody knew that I was biracial. They just thought I was just some thug from that just sold drugs, and I was affiliated with a cartel and gangs and everything. So Ross was like, look, we're going to write a letter. We're going to tell the judge your background, your story, that your mom's side of the family comes from a well-educated, wealthy background, and I'm going to paint a picture for you. I'm going to pull on this judge's heart and make him give you some time served. So we wrote the letter. I've never even seen the courts answer so fast. So he wrote the letter. He said, look, get your mom's sisters to write letters on your behalf, and then we're going to send all the letters together. Sent the letters to the judge. He ended up giving me jail credit, and I didn't have to do 2.5 years when I arrived there. I did like 10 months, and I was granted parole because of the letters the guy helped me write. And he also helped me learn business structure. He helped me tremendously become a man that I wasn't before I arrived to prison. He helped mold me while I was there with him about 2 years. And I helped him as well, because he was unhealthy, eating like crazy. Like he's almost going to become a diabetic if it wasn't for me to like just step in, like, look, man, stop eating all this stuff, start working out. But then I was released. I did from 2013 to 2019. So while in there, I worked out consistently. When I got to the second prison in Miami, I became the leader of a workout crew. So that's when I knew, okay, this is my calling. Guys are coming to me. It's hard to gain respect from guys in federal prison. I knew I had taken my fitness level to the next level when guys start walking up to me asking, hey, Kipp, can I work out with you? And I ended up getting transferred to another prison in South Carolina. When I arrived to the prison, there was guys waiting for me to arrive. They knew I was coming. And so many guys, I'm like, hey, I can't run 5 workout crews in one day. I'll do 3. I'll do a workout crew in the morning. I had like 10 guys working out with me. Lunchtime around 12, I had like 10 to 15 guys working out with me. Evening time, I had like 10 guys working out with me. So I'm like, okay, this is my calling. I'm going to get my certification, become a certified personal trainer. And upon my release, I'm going to stick to it. I don't care if I get rejected. I'm going to get an opportunity as a trainer at a gym. And I put together my plan. Unfortunately, it didn't go as planned, right? My plan was to come back to Florida. So when I got granted parole in Texas, they ended up kicking me out in Texas. They didn't allow me to go back to Florida. So I'm like discouraged. So now I have to start my life over in the town where I did the high-speed chase at, right? So I got out. I went to like 5 gyms, and I was straight up with the guy Ross that mentored me. Was like, look, be straightforward. Use your story to your advantage. Tell the people, look, you made a mistake when you were younger, but you paid your debt to society. straightforward with everyone. When I went to give my resume, I filled out the application, gave my resume. Not my resume, my credentials, because I hadn't worked at a gym, but I had all my certifications, met all the requirements, and nobody called me back. So I had a backup plan. I'm gonna get a job as a server at a food spot so I can stick to my diet and stay in shape so I can eventually land a job at a gym. And I ended up becoming a server at Golden Corral. I was there for like 45 days. I hated it. And I remember I was serving a couple. It was on a Sunday. And the guy was like, "You look like you should be a cornerback for the Texans." I'm like, and I got my certification from a personal trainer. I like, "Thank you, sir." I said, "Hopefully I'll be able to get I'm a personal trainer. Hopefully I'll be able to get a job at a gym soon." And he was like, "Yeah, you shouldn't be serving here." So the following Sunday, I ended up quitting, and something just like came on my heart and told me to go become a member at the gym that you want to be a trainer at, right? So I went to the best gym in Southeast Texas, Exogen Health and Fitness Club, right? Created my brand, Streets to Fitness, created my Instagram. I bought the domain, created my website, and I was in the gym working out. I was filming someone that I was training in the gym, inside the gym. However, I didn't know I was breaking the rules. I remind you, I didn't go to the gym before I went to prison. You couldn't pay me to go in the gym, right? So now I'm in the gym, I'm filming, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to be an influencer until I get a job. I'm going to start just filming content and posting. So I was doing my second post, and I was sitting in the lobby of the Health and Fitness Club. This fitness club, like 36,000 square feet, 11,000 members, huge. And the fitness director seen me training and told the owner. I had already put in 2 applications at this gym. They denied me, right? But that particular day, I put in my second application. So now the owner has my application, and his fitness director just told on me that I was breaking the rules. So I'm sitting in the lobby, and this guy with a suit and tie walks up to me. He was like, "Hey, Kipp, can you come to my office?" It's like a principal telling you, come to the office. So I'm like, how does this guy know me? I don't know he's the owner. So I go to his office. He tells me he's the owner. He said, "Hey, look, my fitness director told me you're breaking the rules in my gym. You're training. You're not a trainer for my brand. I apologize." And then I end up telling him, "Look, but I am a certified personal trainer." I told him my story. He started crying, and he said, "Hey, I work and I volunteer for prison ministries in Southeast Texas." So he was like, "Look, God put on my heart to give you an opportunity. I'm going to give you an opportunity." And I told him, "Look, you're not going to regret it." Make a long story short, 5 months later, I was promoted to fitness director over all the trainers. I broke all the records that stood since 1993, the most training sessions in 2 weeks. I had over 100 clients within like 8 months. Forbes reached out to me to publish my story. He interviewed me and Mr. Travis Duggar, the owner of the Health and Fitness Club. And then I created Streets to Fitness Youth Empowerment Organization, and I reached out to some of the staff that were working there when I was a kid and I was inside of there. I started working out with the kids via Zoom during COVID. I gave them inspiration because seeing is believing with those kids. They see someone that walked that path they're traveling right now and change, I get their attention. So I worked out with them. I created a 365 daily planner, and the daily planner has inspirational quotes from athletes, rappers, and legends, all the people that they look up to. And so where they can, in a 21-day exercise curriculum as well to help them become mentally and physically fit while they're doing that time. So that was the nonprofit side. So after I hit the ceiling at that gym for like 2 years, I trained there. I was the fitness director. I relocated to Florida. When I relocated here, that's when I met Mr. Mark and I met Miss Audra. And I also met, I don't know if you guys know Little Pump, Little Terrio. So I ended up helping Little Terrio lose over 150 pounds. I was featuring.
Tell them who these guys are, because we don't know.
So Little Terrio became famous. He's like a social media influencer. He became famous for creating a dance when he was 6 years old. He created a dance. LeBron James did the dance. Like every football player, they did the dance when they scored a touchdown. He hosts the Super Bowl. I think it was when the Steelers played. It was like 2014 or 15. He hosts the Super Bowl. And the kid is like super famous, but he was overweight. He was like 350 pounds when he was 10 years old, 11 years old. They hired like 15 trainers that all the trainers failed. I made him go viral by helping him lose a lot of weight, right? He went back viral. We got on a call with Nike. We got everyone's attention. Kevin Durant, so many athletes commented on it, right? Because I helped him lose the weight. And there was a TMZ article. ESPN posted his transformation when the Warriors won the championship last year. And he got more views, more likes than the Warriors won the championship. So then Lil Pump, he's like an artist. He was number 2 on the Billboard behind Adele. So I helped him lose weight and build muscle. Who else did I help? I trained another celebrity in Atlanta. But right now I'm doing one-on-one online coaching. I have for my brand, Streets to Fitness. And I just landed a job. I'm about to relocate to Calabasas. George Foreman III, he just hired me to be a trainer at his gym.
Wow.
Incredible.
Kipp, I tell you, it's a great story. I love that. First of all, you should be writing your book if you haven't started already.
That's right.
Definitely, I think people need to hear this story. I want to ask you a question. Why you? And what I mean by that is something in your head figured out with all of the kids out there that had the life that you had. And I grew up with a lot of people like that as well. And I'm in recovery. I found my way through the alcohol, the drugs, and all that. And, of course, Randy's got his story, which is very famous. But what was it that got you to go in the right direction instead of the wrong direction when you were standing in that prison yard looking and saying, all I got to do is walk over that way, do what they tell me to do, and I'm a member of them? What kept you? What was it that made you special not to do that?
I think me being independent, I hate to reference it, but me being independent as a drug dealer when I was on the streets, I didn't want to answer to anyone because I grew up with no guidance and I didn't have a father figure. I didn't want to answer to anyone when I was in prison. However, I thought about me being a loner, that there was a chance, okay, if something were to happen, I'm by myself. However, they had politics in the feds. If you're non-affiliate, meaning you're non-gang affiliate, you roll with the people that's non-gang affiliate from your state. There wasn't many people from Florida and Memphis, Tennessee, but there were guys from Florida that were GDs, which is a gang in Memphis, Tennessee, and the GD said, hey, anybody mess with Florida, we're backing them. So I kind of felt like, okay, I'm not being pressured to be in a gang, but if they try to bully someone from Florida, we got the back from the most dominant. It's like the union, you know what I mean? Like the countries who are, it's the same way in there with gangs. So
I think it's amazing that in your story, you talk about from the beginning, that loneliness and that kind of like on your own and you really couldn't count on anybody.
Right.
In a sense, that what was your trauma in being alone and being left out became your strength. It became like, I've got to be able to stand, and then you took that strength and you started to include more people in it. And now look what you're doing. I think you're fantastic. I think what you're doing is great. Gentlemen, do you have questions for Kipp here? Because we've got about 10 minutes left. We want to see if we can get some questions in here.
I have a couple, Kipp and I have, we've known each other for a number of years now, and I'm always inspired by him. And every time I hear his story, I learn something new about him. But I remember I think we were was it in Cincinnati or Cleveland we went up to?
Right.
And you told me a story about how one time you were on a drug deal and you were packing and the other guy was packing and you weren't sure if you were going to come out alive.
Right.
Share a little bit about that, what it was like. I mean, it's sort of got the glamorous side to it because we've seen movies, but tell us what it was really like.
That happened a few times. I can't recall which one scenario I told you, but one time I was in Texas and I felt like the guy was trying to like rob me.
What kind of drugs were you selling?
Cocaine. So
how much are we talking about?
So I was very savvy, I guess, because I heard stories about my uncle, which was a drug dealer, unfortunately, as well. and I paid attention to what happened to other drug dealers. Like anytime you're dealing with money in the streets, you never know when a person is ready to hit the greed button. So you never know, okay, if I deal with this amount with this person, what he'll do to me, right? So I never dealt with people over like 100 grand. Even if I have to come back and do it in increments, you know what I mean? I'm not going to say, hey, I want to spend this much, because you never know what they'll do to you. You know what I'm saying? So one particular time, I feel like it was the greed button with this guy, right? I normally stayed around 50 grand that I dealt with him with. And this time it was 100. And when I got there, I arrived, he wasn't following the instructions that we agreed to. So I arrived, something told me to check in the hotel, put the money away first, and then go meet him, right? So when I went to go meet him.
So where did you meet him at? Give us the background.
It was in Houston. So when I went to go meet him, I put the money in the hotel. Boom. I went to go meet him. He was supposed to have everything to show me. He didn't have it, but he's steady asking me for the money. And he had a gun, right? So I'm telling
How do you know he had a gun?
Because I seen it.
Okay.
I seen the gun. And I'm like, look, you asking me for the money. He's never done this before. His whole behavior changed when certain amount, right? So my instinct told me, let me right. So he's like, okay, come with me. I'm going to take you to it. I was like, look, I got to see what we're dealing with. I'm not just going to give you money and you just run off or whatever. I didn't say it like that, but he was like, okay, follow me. So we went to all these different spots, and I realized he didn't have what I needed, but he still told me to come. So clearly he was going to try to pull a move on me, right? But he had a girl with him, and the girl recognized that I was picking up on what he was trying to do, right? So when he took me to this house, I straight up told him, I'm like, bro, how would you feel if I had you drive all the way to Florida, you arrive there, and first thing I asked you, hey, where's the money, right? So when I asked him that, and I said, and you got a gun and I don't. So how do you expect me to feel? So he's like, well, I'll give you a gun. I'm like, that still doesn't make me feel comfortable, right? We've been doing business a little while now. Why are you conducting business like this all of a sudden, right? So he was like, okay, we're going to go somewhere else. Now we leave this house. He tried to sell me something else, a different product there. I didn't come here for that, right? So now we leave and go somewhere else. His girl realizes that I'm picking up on what he's trying to do. So now his girl is like, hey, look, he can't find it. I'm going to call my cousin, right? Calls his cousin. And then his cousin, when he realized he couldn't do what he's going to do with me, then it was like, okay, now I end up cutting him out the picture and getting his girlfriend's cousin connection. By going back, his girlfriend cousin connection lived in a condominium that was just built, and it had a concierge. You couldn't even go in it, right? So after I did the business with the girlfriend cousin, I let them leave, and I came back and I paid the front desk $200 to get his number because I like how he did business, but I end up cutting him out the picture. But another time, right, I was in Mississippi, and I had like 60 grand, and I pulled up, and the guy had like a Nike like shoebox, like Jordan shoebox, and he told us it was in the back of the trunk. Nobody lived at this house. It was an abandoned house. So they had the car backed in. They told us it's right here. We have no gun. So just imagine, right? This is the trunk. And my instinct told me something was about to happen. So I looked back. It was like sunset. I looked back. Something told me to look back. When I looked back, it was a guy laying on the ground with an AK-47. And I'm thinking now, automatically my mind tell me these drugs are fake. But my homeboy that's with me, he's not picking up on the play. But I can't like throw a red flag and alert it, and then we get killed right here, right? So I'm standing there. I'm like, all right. I'm like playing mental chess because I can't alert him. I can't tap him on the leg. I can't do anything because the guy is behind us with AK-47 laying on the ground, all black. So I'm like taking deep breaths, and I'm like, here's the money. Come on, let's go. And it's all soft. It looks like it's just baking soda, right? So as soon as we get in the car, I tell my homeboy, I was like, bro, I like, they just got us. And he was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And I said, look over there. Now the dudes get up off the ground. They start running. I was like, this shit fake. Just go ahead and throw it out the window. But yeah, that was a scenario right there.
We got Randy. Do you have anything you want to ask or mention about Kipp? Because we got about 2 minutes left here, 2.5 minutes.
Well, first of all, I'll say thank you for sharing that amazing story, and congratulations for persevering through countless situations where a lot of people wouldn't have made it. And you know, maybe it's that athlete, whatever, you know, that helped you persevere through that, you know, that mentality that you already had. But I guess my question is, with the young people that you work with now, what's your message to them?
The kids that I work with now are at risk and incarcerated youth. My message to them is to believe in themselves and search and find a mentor, any positive mentor you have in the environment, the neighborhood that you grow up in. Gravitate to that person and ask them for guidance. You know, like ask them for resources and tools that you lack, that you don't have. The most important thing that I feel like would have prevented me from going to prison if I had a mentor, right? So that's the most important thing, and to believe in yourself. Whatever dream you have in your heart, go after it and gravitate to your mentor and help whoever it is that's your mentor, stick to them, right? If you can get 1, 2, 3 mentors, that's one thing I learned, the importance of having a mentor while I was in prison. Then upon my release, I found other mentors that were, even though like all the guys I met while I was in prison, they weren't bad people. You know what I'm saying? They just made bad decisions like myself. But I wish I would have learned that earlier when I was younger. So my message to them, find a mentor, believe in yourself, and execute your dreams. Go after it. No matter what obstacles you face, persevere, get back up and keep going.
Kipp, I love that message, and to find a mentor. And I think a lot of people, if they can't find that mentor in their family, they start to give up.
Right.
And it's like, listen, many times, I think for everybody here and everybody out there, if you want success, you got to find mentors outside of your circle, outside of your family, and outside, you know, so maybe you're not getting the guidance you want from your family, but find somebody in your community or in the business that you want to be involved in that you could follow, right? Right.
Exactly. So that's another message that I give the kids, right? That we have social media, right? So if you DM people that's in the space that you desire to be in, DM them, be annoying, like get their attention. One of them, it may not be one with millions of followers. You may find one that has 10,000 followers, 20,000 followers. They might answer you, like comment, show them that, look, this is what you want to do. They may bring you up under their wing and hire you and teach you the game. Like, you got to find somebody in your niche, your space, and gravitate to them as hard as possible.
Every celebrity, every famous person, when they're thanking people, they always thank somebody you never heard of.
Exactly.
You know, Bob Schmidt, the guy lived down the street from me.
Right. The person behind
your mentors, you know, don't go to the superstars to be your mentors. Look for the people who help build those superstars. Look for the people that are the backbone behind them. Look for people with the healthy attitudes and certainly the strong character that you want in your life. Mark, how do you want to wrap this up for us, Mark?
Well, first of all, Kipp, thank you for coming on. Just quickly, what's happening in LA? Because I know you're moving. So what's the move now? What's the future of Streets and for you?
So I have a partnership that I'm developing with a huge influencer. His name is Charlie Rocket. He has a foundation as well called the Dream Foundation. He's been struggling on his weight loss journey for a while, and I've been following him. That's a prime example of following someone and reaching out to him, being persistent. I've been following him for like 2 years, reaching out to him. Then finally he answered back to me. And one of my mentors is the co-executive producer of Jimmy Kimmel Live. So I set up a meeting with my mentor, Doug DeLuca, and Charlie Rocket. Just so happened, Charlie Rocket has a TV show that he pitched to Steve Harvey. And I guess the deal didn't fall through. So now I have him set up with my mentor, and they're working on a deal, and I have to get over there and help him get results with his weight loss journey. And George Foreman III, like, he has one of the best gyms in Calabasas in LA area. So he ended up giving me a job there. So I'm going over there working at George Foreman's gym, and I'm going to be working with Charlie Rocket.
Congratulations.
That's
Thank you.
fantastic.
So it's all
That's
about
fit.
it's all about the journey, whether it's recovery or success. It
Correct.
takes time.
That's right. That's right. Every journey needs a roadmap, and certainly, if we could do it all on our own, we would do it. We need mentors. We need help. We need sponsors. We need people behind us. Surrounding yourself with good people is the easiest and the best way to find success in your life, and to find the help that you need when you need it. But we've gone over our time. We want to thank everybody for coming. First of all, thanking the walking, talking miracle, Kipp Luster himself, for being here. Kipp, I hope you keep us surprised of what's going on, and let us know what you're doing in your journeys, and write that damn book, man.
Thanks for having me. I'm going to write a book.
In the movie.
And a movie.
Yeah. Randy's going to play you in the movie. This is going to be, it's going to be really tough how we're going to make that work, but we're going to figure it out. All right. But
thanks, Kipp.
Thank you, Kipp. We appreciate you.
What did you like?
But you have been watching the Champions Journey podcast with myself, your humble servant, Scott Jones, attorney extraordinaire, Mark Astor, and the walking, talking legend from the NFL, Randy Grimes, and of course, our special guest, Kipp. Thank you for joining us. We will catch you next time right here